Jim Lee attacks Republicans, killing Dane Quayle. And here we have the Vice President of the United States blaming Shaft of Youngblood. Shaft tries to reason with him. Mr. Quayle wants none of it. And then this guy, Lynch, is trying to figure out who's the sleeper cell. Merlot knows. Jacob knows. He can't tell him. The idea will shatter his mind. He can't tell Lynch that Mr. Quayle is part alien demonite. And he even puts Wildstorm's own Deadpool, Pike, in his place. I mean, look at this. Real quick, let me just introduce myself because we're using Wildcats 2 as a really good baseline for everything that's coming with Wildcats 4. People, Peter A DeLuca here, AKAPAD 69, still with me, known throughout fighting Philadelphia, PA, Europe, and the vast multiverse as your eclectic one. Are you guys ready? Leave a comment, subscribe, support. If you have a contradictory idea, I want to hear your idea in the comments below. Rock and roll all day, all night. Let's get to it. AKAPAD. So this is what I consider Wildstorm's announcement to the comic book world, that we are here. We got issue 1, we got Wildcats 1 with some pretty cool trading cards inserted inside of that spine. 2 different versions of those, by the way. But this is Wildstorm's announcement. Comic book world, we are here. We did issue 1, we got that out of the gate, but here's some razzle dazzle. And we're going to be a part of this gimmick train of the industry, but along the way. Now, you guys, you comic book historians, you're going to trash this work. You're going to say it has no story. You're going to say it has no characters. And you're going to later retcon that it was not more interesting and better than the X-Men of the time. This is the hubris. This is also a part of the horror of Wildcats 1 through 4. Today's video was delayed. And the reason why it was delayed, because last week when I sat down to go through that 4-issue miniseries through the trade paperback, using the trade paperback, by the way, I saw a hole. I saw a hole in how I knew people perceived the story. I worked on a different format, just ideas of how to present everything that transpires in that Wildcats, or this Wildcats 1 through 4. Everyone focuses on Dane Quayle. Dane Quayle is a major part of this story. He is, you can say he is the A-plot. He is the plot. So we're going to start with Dane Quayle, and then we're going to go into the very confusing opening pages of Wildcats 1. It's confusing, but it's ambitious, and that it's because it flash forwards, and if we consider Wildcats 0, it also flashes backwards as well. So it's a loaded gun. And then along the way, we get a rhythm very similar to James Cameron's Aliens, to where once it gets going, it is 40 miles of bad road, essentially for everyone involved, because we have some of our heroes getting their arms torn off. We have hero fractions fighting against one another. We have disappearance by Youngblood fighting the good guys, fighting against the good guys, Wildcats. And then we have 2 villain fractions trying to kill everyone. It's a lot. But I was working on ways to, how do we present some of these characters and how do we set up these characters without just showing you the comics, because we need better visuals sometimes. And I could throw things up here on the screen, but sometimes physical products get the message across. So we're incorporating the later 1995 Jim Lee Wildstorm Productions trading card Wildstorm Gallery cards, which I consider to be the 2nd or 3rd greatest trading card series or set of all time. Yes, it's true. That Wildstorm Gallery trading card set is so legit. You'll see some of those. So we're going to set up the characters first, and then we're going to go into the end of Wildcats, and then we're going to go into the beginning, and I'm going to show you the payoffs of some of these like flash forwards or even flash sideways, and then we're going to get into the rhythm of this adventure, because it really feels like a adventure by the end. And that's all credit to Jim Lee and his storytelling, because he gives us a lot of the right images at the right time to convey what some of the emotions are, and our brain takes leaps between the panels, inside the gutters. Jim Lee is in he's masterful at this, and this is him at his height. Now later, as we all know the story, as Jim Lee starts to run a company, everything that really this cover spawned, okay, like this product spawned it all. Not really Wildcats 1, I know I've been saying Wildcats 1, but Wildcats 2 was the stamp that we are here. Jim Lee becomes a guy that runs a company. He's a company guy. His storytelling, the overall enthusiasm that we can feel within his pages, a lot of these intangibles start to fade, and we get little highlights of that in the Killer Instinct crossover, because he is competing with Mark Silvestri for Killer Instinct. The two of those crazy cats are fighting for the top slot. What am I saying? I almost said top slot there. But then Jim Lee later comes back. I feel like he does come back in what was Divine Right, The Adventures of Max Faraday. And this story kind of goes through all the Wildstorm universe and incorporates it all, and really positions Max Faraday as Wildstorm's god character. But that's a few years down the road. In my opinion, Jim Lee doesn't quite ever get back to the heights of his storytelling in Wildcats 1 through 4, and a lot of it could have been he was just enjoying drawing these characters. He was on X-Men for so long, it gets bored, it gets repetitive, you get a little too close to your subject, and I feel like a part of him going along with Todd McFarlane essentially are not doing the comic book union, but forming a company, Image Comics, instead, to produce a product instead. Wildcats, right? You got it right. The Wildcats is Wildcats 1 is somewhat of a echo of a comic book union pitch by Todd McFarlane. I feel like Jim Lee felt like he could establish himself with this miniseries and go back to Marvel and become a part of the executive force, the management, and later, 4 years from this point, he would fight and position himself as chief publishing officer, EPC, EIC. He wanted to run Marvel Comics, and he got turned away at the last second. The door was slammed at his face at the 0 hour. So there's a lot that stems from Wildcats 1 through 4. No one likes to focus on the guts of those issues, what's really within the spine of that book. It's confusing to me because I really feel like Wildcats 1 through 4 is just a fun, fantastic read. And again, targeted towards younger minds, but it does have guts. It does, again, it foreshadows, it goes back in time, it sets things up, it gives the whole Wildstorm universe a lot of meat to kind of feed off of moving forward, and they actually did. I mean, in a way, we have even the setup for Gen 13 in the first few pages of Wildcats #1. These are a lot of the big ideas that they were well aware that they were doing. A lot of the stuff, in my view, is not by mistake. So let's hit that drawing table. We're going to get into Wildcats, and I hope you enjoy it. Rock and roll. So it all starts here. Everyone that I'm about to show you, every motivation in this book is about an orb. Guys, Wildcats 1 through 4, right here. Surrounded by Wildcats, we have issue 0, 2, 4, and 3. So we get all of the miniseries on full display, and then we collect it. But before we get into Wildcats, guys, I've been a little bit busy because we have some trading cards here, and I'm showcasing the Wildcats gallery. Boxes for these are still affordable. this is what I consider. Now, if you want to say large scale, the 1-up cards or whatever, this is the greatest tall trading card set of all time. It's in my all-time list of comic book trading card sets. So we get a couple different fractions. Fraction 1 would be Wildcats. So we get Maul, Spartan, Void, Spartan here, Voodoo, Warblade, all the ones we know. Zealot and Lord Imp as the main guy. Their primary opposition are these guys. This is Lord Hellspawn. And this is one of the chase cards, by the way. But, Lord Hellspawn, dude. Fiery head. He's got those cable arms. His color palette is one of the best, I feel like. He's got this teal, purple, gold, bright blue. It just works. But they're essentially what's called the Demon Knights. So the Demon Knights have been fighting the Coda Zealots crew. Okay, they've been fighting for, we'll just say, a long time. Now, along the way, the Coda kind of has two fractions. They have like good, girly, hot assassins, and then they have bad, girly, hot assassins. So some of these assassins are with Lord Hellspawn. We have Providence here, the Soothsayer. Later to be, the same character shows up in New 52, by the way. Jim Lee likes these types of characters. I believe people like to say that was a Jeff Johns plug, but I believe it's the Jim Lee plug. But yeah, more assassin babes. This girl gets nuked in a strip club. She later comes back in Wildstorm lore. This is Devin. And then we get Pike, and Pike is our, people just will say, for lack of a better term, he's the guy that looks like Deadpool, who is a awesome, cool-looking Jim Lee drawn assassin. So these are the primary bad guys. This is the conflict that is driving even the motives of Lord Imp here. Now, Imp, it's indicated in Wildcats 1 through 4 that Imp has a history, a 30-year history, which is great, by the way, because, right, we like those backstories. 30-year history fighting all of this mess. One of the guys he has a connection with is our Gnome boy here. Gnome, by the way, doesn't even get a trading card for Gallery. I had to go to another trading card set for Gnome. So Norm's friends are these, they're Slag, but they're like mercenaries. Slag, Harm, which is an acronym, Attica, and here they are from another trading card set, but they're known as the Troika. So these are the players from within the Wildstorm universe. Now, we have a Nick Fury, player of the players. Okay, hopefully you guys like that setup. So we have Lynch here, okay? Lynch runs IO. Had to go to another trading card set for that one. Lynch runs IO, and IO basically deploys these amazing Black Razor dudes. Now, the Black Razors are so effing cool, we get confused with some of the other Jim Lee armored designs, and if we kind of do a quick flip through, we get confused with what's the Black Razors and what are some of the Demon Knight soldiers that have like a exoskeleton transformation. Not too big of a deal, but Lynch, the only thing I know is Lynch and Black Razor, okay? Nick Fury and his soldiers, okay? So we're still not done, because we have to address the cover for Wildcats 3. And that's these guys, and sorry, we have to jump trading card sets again. But we have the boys and girls of Rob Liefeld's Young Blood. Robservations, Rob Liefeld's podcast, he says that deals like this were made, the use of characters were made over quick meetings and handshake decisions. Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee later they fracture Image Comics by leaving Image, going to Marvel, and doing Heroes Reborn, where Jim Lee was making a bid at the time to take over Marvel Comics. That's how all of that is linked, by the way. Wildcats 3 right here is the future downfall of all of Image Comics. So, and then, we jump trading card sets here. This is the Skybox Extreme Studio set, which is amazing. And, little character note. Chapel is featured in here, and Chapel in the Rob Liefeld universe later becomes Lord Chapel and takes over Hell. That does not intersect with his crossover with Spawn, because Spawn later, by Spawn 100, it's a whole, he kills Malebolgia, but Chapel's not a part of that. And another quick side note, this Youngblood Comic Images trading card set also has the rookie card of Shadowhawk. So hopefully we set up the story. A lot of Wildcats. This is our final page, okay? The final page is Lynch over here. Okay, Lynch, again, I keep calling him the Nick Fury. He set up so much from the very beginning. Him going forward, continuing a mission, right? Maybe not the mission, but a mission. Well, page 2, issue 1, he set up right here in a, we want to call this a flash sideways. Some of you might argue flash back. But Lynch, and then we go into the future. Not too far into the future, but we get into Deathmate Black. Valiant Comics, Image Comics, all right? People hate this crossover. I think this crossover is fantastic. But we set up Gen 13. Gen 13 changed American comics. Gen 13 became the centerpiece of Image Comics for a good stretch. Gave us J. Scott Campbell. Actually, yeah, I have to say it. The inking of Alex Garner. Amazing. But Gen 13 is here. Lynch is their Nick Fury. He is the oversight of Wildstorm, period. And he was set up in page 2 of issue 1. You might want to see what the regular issues look like. So the trade paperback, as previously reviewed, was packaged with issue 0. And issue 0 is not critical to leading into issue 1. Not like other issue 0s. But we get 1, we get 2. We have a couple different ones here, as previously featured here. And issue 4 was polybagged with a Topps trading card Wildstorm promo card. This trading card set gets released. It's a so-and-so trading card set. But later, Jim Lee just takes what Topps does with the Wildcats name, and he creates a trading card company that really rivals everything that's out there. So we keep these bagged up. Wildcats 1, we know, has alternate insert cards, which is pretty cool. I don't know anything about the story around that. And then we get issue 3. And guys, here's a quick note about issue 3. A couple months into Wildcats, we get Wildcats 3. This is a crossover of Youngblood and Wildcats in the Wildcats' first epic adventure. And it also foreshadows the complete downfall of Image Comics, the departure of both Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee, and in all of it too, even Mark Silvestri within this time frame will depart shortly after they depart, and then he comes back when Rob Liefeld is out for good. The actual history of this issue and what it implies in the future of, at the time, the second largest comic book publisher is of note. Yeah, and one of the moments to focus on. See, when we hit issue 3, we get the arrival here. We get the arrival of Rob Liefeld's Youngblood. And they're set up as the government. They are set up as the guys that are going to push back to protect the VP here, Dan Quayle, who Maul here has by the throat. So we get into issue 3. And guess what? We are all go and no quit. A big beatdown. Spartan, isn't that Youngblood? The Demon Knight must have bought them along with extra security. Dakota Assassin and Pike are one thing, but we're not ready for this kind of action. We have to try and explain what's going on. So Spartan, who in the previous issue gets his arm completely torn off by a Coda assassin, so much so Maul just slams her into the wall. Guys, we already made reference to this shot here in Cyberforce, maybe the most overused shot in comic book history. The taint smash against the wall. But Spartan basically lays it down. We are unmatched for young blood. This is in the terms of wrestling, we will call Spartan is selling. He is selling young blood. He's selling them as invincible, and us as the audience, we're on board with it. And really what happens in issue 3 is we get this amazing artwork. At the time, you wanted Jim Lee to draw young blood, okay? And this is what I mean about Jim Lee. He is at a click here. This is some of the absolute best work. Chapel nuking Spartan. Badrock nuking Maul. Within 2 pages of the confrontation, Youngblood has eradicated Wildcats, and it puts them at a disadvantage. We get Shaft here, and maybe his best use of an arrow ever. He uses a sonic arrow to distract Voodoo. Voodoo can't use her powers. Her powers would trigger the Demonite, because Voodoo exercises the Demonites that are hidden deep within human beings. She would exercise the one that's in Dane Quayle, but she can't. Because that would clear their names. These 2 panels here continue the action. They set it up perfectly, and then we get the non-distraction, because the Wildcats are breaking into a military base. We go back a little bit here. They're breaking, they talk to Lynch. They have the Black Razors. Marlowe and Lynch come to terms. They have a history. Again, we go back 30 years. These 2 a-holes come to terms. I'm not giving you one, right? He's not giving him a chance. He's not giving him Merlot screws people over. This comes to fruition later. We'll talk about that in a couple seconds. Lynch knows Merlot is full of crap, but Merlot is, again, acting for the higher good. He's fighting against the Demonites that are hidden in human beings. So they break up the team. They split up. Team 1, we'll say, just, goes through the hallway. They encounter Pike. Pike kind of knows that if Grifter isn't in the initial incursion, Grifter and Zealot are someplace else, and he's right. Because we get Team 2 now through, through the pipes. They're coming in through the air ducts. And then we get all chaos breaking loose. We get the Demonite Lord Hellspawn. We get the guy. Here we go. Ready? This guy. Do we care about who this guy is? Well, this guy knows where that orb is. You guys remember the orb? Here we go. We're in issue 4, by the way. Page 1. Here's the dude in the Arctic getting the orb, and the orb awakens. And at the time it awakens, see, hold up here. If we go to issue 0, the only thing that matters with issue 0 is the beginning. Because we get this vision of this Russian astronaut, and it gets hit by a comet. A comet goes by the space station, destroying the space station, but then creating void. Void somehow absorbs this ancient alien power. Okay? We are in the same place here. So, Void gets this psychic shock that kind of goes forwards, backwards, sideways, and us as a viewer. See, when you're writers, you can talk and you can write this, but how do we show it? And it's complicated to show it. But Spartan, Merlot run in. They're like, what's happening? She's like, look, guys, some SHIT is about to hit the fan. I don't think we're ready. He's like, I don't think we're ready. We know that they're not ready. I love the disadvantage that they build into Wildcats here. So we get this flash sideways. The dude that shows up in issue 4 that knows all about the orb, because he's been hunting it, he tracks its energy sources, he gets a glimpse of Void. And then at the same time, Lynch in IO we're at the end of the book here, guys. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9th panel in Wildcats period foreshadows the last few panels of the miniseries. You guys follow me? But they see this vision. See? The future. So when this happens, we get into issue 2. And this is a great detail, okay? And this is, I love military science fiction. But I.O. and Lynch, they have these soldiers that can read, like, the psychic realm. They can read psychic impulses and pulses. And, you know, and somehow, through the magic of computers, you know, we get maps. But, yeah, moving on. One of them just gets nuked. And I always love the way Jim Lee drew the blood here. So, within issue 2, we kind of see the vast power of Void. And Void is a little bit of a gotcha character because she is like omnipresent. She's a lot like, not a little bit, but she is a silver naked babe version of Dr. Manhattan. Covert action team. She makes them covert because she can put them anywhere. But again, with all of these characters, they have to be tied to something tangible. She's tied to these, there's 3 orbs. She's tied to all 3 orbs. Her power is vast, it's infinite, but because the orbs are not under their control, it's limited. So we get into issue 1. I'm not going to, we went over this before, check other videos. Jacob Merlot here is sleeping. It's a double gotcha, not a really good start. Issue 1 does not start well, because we have these flash sideways that we don't understand. And then we get Jacob Merlot, great introduction. We see how he meets Void. Void seeks him out. Silver naked Dr. Manhattan bait. Again, taint shot, so most overused shot in comics. But then we get a gotcha, because then we go to the past, we go to today, and he does the same things. And when they're in the past, this is where Jacob Merlot encounters a velocity from Cyberforce. So it's a good shot. I mean, it's another handshake within, again, another taint shot here. It's a good handshake from within Wildstorm Productions, Homage Studios, Ballistic Studios, and the future Top Cow Productions. But we see Merlot is rocking and rolling. He is Gordon Gekko. He is the businessman. He has this Halo Corporation. And Void hints at Merlot's like power. Merlot is important because he's also somewhat tied to her. But then we get more of this vision. Now we're in like 5 or 6 pages, okay? And we get double broken panel visions. Confusing. But we get this guy, the gnome, who's really in like 4 or 5 like pages. All right, so Gnome Boy here. Let's just skip ahead because this is where the story breaks. I talk about this a lot, all right? A lot of people do not know how to look at a story. They don't. And this is why we've emerged with this new format. This more purposeful format. So Merlot goes to talk to Gnome Boy here, okay? And they have a conversation. And Gnome's like, look, I've known you for 30 years. Always going back to the 30 years. And I will do this for you. Yeah, I can get you the information of where Hellspawn is and the orb. But you owe me a favor. And will you do that favor without asking? And Merlot says, fine, it's yours. Your word of honor. My word is my bond. So we get into the end of issue 2 where Youngblood pops in. Everyone's about to face off. Everyone's at Hellspawn's house. It's like a house party. Okay? You guys remember Hellspawn, right? This guy. All right? Everyone's at his house. At the end of issue 3, all throughout issue 4. It's Hellspawn's house party. So we get Gnome and his like Coda girl. Because like these assassins are somewhat like the Bene Gesserit in Dune. They're kind of like all over the place. And he's like, everyone is gathering. My time has come. We get a problem. See, we get Gnome here in his like all-powerful throne information gathering position, just like Ozymandias. But when we see him, right? Like when we see him over here, right? Like that's the same guy. So we're effing confused. That's why he never resonated. There's no good tags. So the gnome shows up at the end. And you think he's showing up on the side of Hellspawn. You think he's showing up, but he nukes Hellspawn. He nukes him because he gets the orb while everyone's distracted. He brings his friends. Look at Harm here. Love that design. Like I said, Jim Lee has high marks in the design of this era. And yeah, and Gnome controlling the situation, we think, right? And he confronts Void to steal her power and become more powerful. And to, you know, energy absorbing energy. Merlot comes in to save his life. The silver babe must get rescued. And he goes, look, I shall call in my favor now, heroes. Do keep your word, yes? Heroes, keep your word. And Merlot nukes him, shoots off his arm. And we get this awesome shot of just like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. He chases after the orb and falls into a pit. Yeah, like, I mean, we were to believe that he later gets the orb. I mean, come on. So later, Gnome's not dead in future Wildstorm history. Hellspawn not dead in future Wildstorm history. We will get to those. And at this point, we have this like great conjuncture, just like in the Dark Crystal. And like Hellspawn here he's opening up the portal. He's summoning everything. This is why I love issue 4 so much. Just because everything happens. Like he's victorious. Everyone's laid to waste. Youngblood and Wildcats together. They're like, we're gonna have to stop this guy. Dan Quayle, still the sleeper agent. They all rip. Let it go. Hellspawn can't be stopped. And we get this awesome sequence here. I love it when he's like, just the narration. He's talking about the portal opening. He's talking about the end of the earth. I don't know why this is a lazy shot, but to me, it always worked. I just like the little bit of the dude's helmet here, the pilot's helmet. But all the forces are coming through the great hole in the sky. And Spartan here, again, like, this is great. Spartan, we learn at this point, we think he's going to die. He sacrifices himself, finds the one magical power cable right here. It's labeled to the reactor. Because, like, you know, that's how those things are labeled. But he nukes everything, closes the portal. Warblade goes bonkers. Hellspawn gets pissed. He has a little bit of a backup. But then, yeah, he can't initiate his backup because Gnome shows up, or he has the orb, and we know how that ends. And we get this, like, amazing ending here. Where, because of Spartan, right, the whole facility now gets nuked. And I love this dialogue between Shaft and Badrak. What's the word on the VP, Shaft? Medvac's taking him to Bethesda right now for observation, but he looks all right. What about Project Reunification? Project Reunification is what Hellspawn is doing throughout all of this, okay? NASA says none of the alien ships made it through intact, and however, was left burned up during re-entry. How are the cleaners doing? The forensics teams fishing up now. They find anything. They come across the dead Spartan, and basically, look, they seemed resourceful. They seemed a resourceful bunch, Badrock. I wouldn't be surprised if our paths crossed again. Perfect. And look at this. This is what I was talking about with the intro. Okay, the choices of Jim Lee. We have the sunset here. We're still in the sunset, and we know. Look at this. We know we're miles away. Right? We could be halfway across the world, but we know there's distance. And the team is safe. I mean, we cannot look. We can keep this out. And if we just went from here to this, we know that the team is safe. And look, it's 2 silhouettes. Yeah, and we get this, everyone's drinking wine. Void's like, hey, I don't drink alcohol. And it's like, come on. Have a drink, Void. We're at the end of our first mini-series. And Voodoo, now it gets revealed that a Spartan can just regenerate himself, his memories, everything gets transferred from body to body. Spartan, in effect, is immortal, cannot die. That shows up way later in, like, Wildcats 2.0. But then we get this other, like, easy shot here. And it complements, like, everything so well. And we're moving on. And this could be the end. But Jim Lee and Brandon Chow are so intelligent with their storytelling that we get this, like, epilogue here. And these are images, right? Like, you make the choice of what to put on the page. Let's do it again. If we didn't see this page, and we just went here. Let's just say you found this page in the street. Okay? You would know this was an epilogue. Far away medium shot. Far away medium shot. The kid stays on the left side. Lynch stays on the right side. These work with this. We get, it's a little bit risky. But he puts Lynch on the left because he's walking into frame. Our eyes pick that up because we go from left to right. But he flips it and it just works. It works down line. And that's... So this would be what you would say, like, this is the draw of the story. Because the entire backstory of this interdimensional alien 1,000 year war is complicated. We need to put our cool guy here, Grifter. And look at these 2 pages, by the way. We're, like, underwater. We have Providence here, soothsaying. She's like the opposite of Void. But then we go into Void transporting Merlot to talk to Gnome. And then we have Gnome, we have a deal cut. And then we're back at the strip club, or to the strip club, with a cool bike. Grifter, with his wraparound shades and bandana, walks in and he's ready to rock and roll. Throw down some hundies, get some honeys. And, while he's there, he sniffs her out. The one of the code assassin walks in. And we get this giant strip club fight, which is fantastic, by the way, that essentially ends with the whole place getting nuked and Zilot coming into frame, and the entire club gets, blasted. And then by the time we get into issue 2, we reveal Dan Quayle didn't make it to the strip club, everyone. He is safe, but he's also an alien demonite lord, but the strip club's gone. And luckily, Zilot, or Void, was quick enough, and that's where we get all of these. But she's quick enough, she transports them safely into flight, because let's turn... I always like this panel. See, like, you kind of want to say what was required was just like a team shot, right? And issue 2's choppy. But this as your team shot, without doing a double page spread, this is a solution, and it's a great team shot. And we have in character. Like, what do we mean? Well, we have Merlot lighting his cigar. We have Void. She's like, I'm in my stripper uniform still, by the way. And my stripper uniform will now become my superhero uniform. That's fine. I feel like that's a little bit meta. We get Warblade sitting down at kind of, you want to say, the co-pilot position. But we get Spartan piloting, and we get Maul shrinking down. I mean, there's a lot of explanation here, okay? We have a look between Zilot and Merlot. Brother Grifter, you will address Lord Emp with the proper respect. Like, there's characterization here. And if you have to turn the book sideways to do it, I say do it. Because pages are valuable at this time. We're not digital pre-press. We're not digital printing. Pages cost a lot of money. But yeah, issue 2 kind of just runs with more exposition. more great shots, a little bit of the background of the alien war. We get this guy, right? Remember him? I teased him, the guy from the beginning. Well, he shows up all the way at the end. We don't even care about his name. But he's like the guy that's like, I can find you your thing, Lord Hellspawn, if you give me what I asked for. And I just would like a continent on Earth, please. And I can't find his panel. But he only really shows up at the end. And, you know, we just find out that they're tracking this thing. This thing's important. Let's move the story along. And then in their safe house, because of Lynch, and they were able to track the energy signatures, we get the Black Razors. The Black Razors come in and we rock and roll. And, you know, Emp is like, hey, I'm going to shoot this guy. And Lynch is like, you? And they're like, you? And then they're like, you guys know each other? Which is kind of cool. And then we just get this coming of terms here that we talked about earlier. So we'll end on this. We'll end on a little bit of confusion. And these are a lot of the subliminal things. Like the way how we identify the gnome. And how the gnome and not being able to track him visually breaks a little bit of the miniseries. Similarly, so the strip, we can kind of say the strip club sequence is the centerpiece of issues 1 and 2. The centerpiece of issues 3 and 4 is the introduction of Young Blood. But we get these guys, see? So within the strip club, we get a couple, you know, like thugs. They come in with the Coda Assassin. And they make a reference right here. Kanar, forget woman, I see the grifter. Kanar. So they're using like alien names. Activate flash suits. So they activate the flash suits right here. Okay. This is very typical Jim Lee, like exo armor design, right? Exo armor, endo armor. It's the outside armor. And we just have to kind of question visually, was that a mistake? Because if you didn't know any better, and let's just say you were flipping through this, or you buy issue 2 and then you buy issue 1 and you see these guys, you go to issue 1, you're going to think that the Black Razors are in the strip club. Okay? Because a lot of times we flip through the comic before reading it. It's a break, guys. These had to be more distinctive. This is Wildcats. And I always like the original designs. I just want to say, too, like, you kind of want to say Jim Lee designed everything on the page. But to do this, he just, like, got some of these other sketches and added spikes and chains. And was, you know, gave Zila a shield and said, this is my concept work, guys.